believes our readers, those who elect you to represent them on this council, have a right to be involved in decisions made on their behalf, some of which can completely change the texture of their lives. They have a right to open and transparent government. They have a right to know where each of you stand on local issues. Over the past week, Ms Higgins has been canvassing elected members for comments on a range of issues. Each time, she has been told members are not permitted to speak to the media because the council has entered caretaker mode in the lead up to November's elections. All questions have been referred to the acting CEO or the communications department. In one case, a councillor hung up on our reporter, who is merely doing her job. This is the first time Messenger Community News can recall a council taking such an extreme stance in the lead up to elections. We believe it is undemocratic and we intend to campaign against it until it is reversed. We believe it is misguided and contrary to the interests of the residents of the City of Mitcham on several counts. Elected members do not stop representing their constituents while in caretaker mode, and we contend they must still be accountable for their decisions and open to public questioning and debate. The media restrictions in the caretaker policy go further than is required under Section 91A of the Local Government Elections Act, which is not designed to sever the lines of communication between the council, its members and employees, and the media. The local media plays a key role in raising the level of community awareness in relation to council elections. It does this on two levels. Firstly, we assist in raising awareness of the fact that elections are to be held. I note that much attention has been paid to increasing the level of voter turnout in recent times, at both the state and local government levels. Indeed, the recent independent review of local government elections revealed concerningly low levels of publicity for council elections and the need to devote further resources to encourage higher voter turnout and awareness. In these circumstances, it is counterintuitive to implement draconian measures that hinder the ability of residents to obtain information regarding elections. This is particularly concerning given the slump in voter participation levels in recent years and the challenging target set in South Australia's strategic plan of increasing voter participation in elections to 50% by 2014. Secondly, we inform voters about the issues that affect them and how their candidates propose to address those issues and what they stand for. The caretaker policy hinders the media's ability to play these roles in the election process. As you will recall, the independent review of local government elections recommended, and the government accepted this recommendation, that an advertising agency be retained to develop and implement a promotional campaign designed to assist voters in finding out more about their local candidates and encouraging them to vote.
Ms Wilson, you finished?
Yes, almost done. Local media coverage of election issues and candidates does both of these things at no cost to the taxpayer. Refusing to speak to the media in the lead up to a council election means they can avoid important scrutiny, which allows our readers and your ratepayers to make an informed decision on whom they should vote for. We live in a free, open and democratic country, and this policy is diametrically opposed to those core values. The council risks completely disengaging a community which is already experiencing severe voter fatigue following a state and federal election this year. Many of you have privately admitted you find this policy somewhat confusing, with many grey areas. I ask you tonight then, why did you vote it in? None of our Messenger colleagues in other papers are experiencing these problems. Your ratepayers have the right to know what you believe on important local issues so they can make an informed vote. We ask you to rescind this policy.
Do you realise that the council has sought legal advice on some of the topics at least, not all of them, and the legal advice has been quite specific about what can and can't be done, and it has recommended some limitations that you're now finding.
I realise that, but I again make the point that none of my colleagues at any of our other papers are experiencing the level of restrictions here as with the councils they cover as what we are with Mitcham.
Are there aspects of, with your other colleagues, that you can identify why we are different in the response?
I really don't know. I mean, I can compare you guys to Onkaparinga, which is the other council that we cover in the Hills and Valley in the Southern Times, which I'm also the editor of. And when we ring the mayor there or any of the councillors, they don't even mention their caretaker policy. They're happy to continue commenting as normal. I don't know why that is. I don't know whether you've received different legal advice to what Onkaparinga has, but all I can say is that based on experience, we're not experiencing these, restrictions with other councils.
Okay.
If a councillor speaks to the media and, speaks to your paper and
they are quoted as a councillor. Do you not see that as an advantage over other candidates in that they already have public standing?
I don't believe so, and I can tell you that from a messenger perspective, we pride ourselves on giving everyone a fair say. When it comes to election campaigns, I don't think you can argue that Messenger does it well. We always give every candidate, every councillor, it doesn't matter who you are, a say. Now, I realise that this year is the first time that local government has legislation in place and that you have to have this caretaker policy, and I realise that's different compared to state and federal caretaker policies. But, you know, when we're talking about state MPs, they don't suddenly stop becoming the state MP when it's a state election, and I don't see how it's any different here. I realise that you have to be careful, but I don't understand why you have to be as careful as you're being when the advice that we have is that you're going over and above what the Local Government Act requires.
I have a question for you, Your Worship, and look, I agree with what Stephanie said, and it's a big grey area, and it's ridiculous in many ways, because there was a recent event that we couldn't go to, and there were lots of candidates there that were handing out their election campaigns.
The press didn't come in.
It wasn't my area, but it's still the point that there are opportunities for people to unequally contribute, and you can't control everything, and yet we've been squeezed into this little box and told that we can't do this and we can't do that. And you know, there's a big grey area again, and what we seem to be doing is going right up under the scale on the protection, which I think we do sometimes with other things, and it's just ridiculous. But what needs to happen is that we need to get it clear. We need to lobby the LGA and make sure it's clear and consistent, because there are many big disadvantages in both ways. So my question is, I hope you're going to lobby the LGA and ask them when they're going to make it consistent.
For sure.